Commandment 6. Never confuse covenant with contract. In modern business, we often reduce our relationships to cold transactions, contracts filled with clauses and loopholes. But in the Torah tradition, the most sacred relationships are not contractual, they are covenantal. A covenant is built on trust, honor, and longevity. It reflects a shared vision, not just a shared interest. In business, this means treating partners, employees, and even competitors with integrity beyond the minimum. You honor your word even when it hurts. You show up even when you're not required to. You don't just close deals, you build relationships. Rabbi Lapin reminds us, the wealthiest people are not those with the most contracts, but those with the most trust. Commandment 7. Leave a legacy, not just an estate. The Torah calls each of us to think generationally. Wealth is not merely what you earn, it's what you leave behind, not just in dollars, but in discipline, in values, in reputation. Are you building something your children can inherit? Not just a business, but a blueprint. Jewish wisdom emphasizes storytelling, tradition, and continuity. Pass down the lessons that made you strong. Record your struggles as well as your strategies. Money comes and goes, but character, transmitted with intention, outlives any estate. Don't just focus on net worth, build generational worth. Commandment 8. Elevate your speech. Words are spiritual instruments. In Jewish thought, the universe was spoken into existence. Your words have the power to build or destroy wealth, both for yourself and for others. Avoid speech that curses, complains, or belittles success. Instead, speak life into your endeavors. Speak hope over your clients. Speak opportunity into your team. The way you talk about money, business, and prosperity becomes the script your subconscious follows. If you want to change your results, change your language. Wealth listens to the words you speak. Commandment 9. Be radically resilient. There is no prosperity without perseverance. Jewish history is one of exile, persecution, and survival. And yet, the community thrives. Why? Because resilience is not optional, it is embedded. To succeed in business, you must be prepared to fail and to rise again. You must be able to endure rejection, drought, and disappointment without losing your vision. The Torah doesn't promise ease, but it does promise meaning. If your mission is real, your endurance must be too. The reward is not just in the riches, but in who you become on the journey. Commandment X. Partner with God in your work. The final commandment is the most intimate. All work is spiritual when done with intention. The Jewish businessman sees profit as partnership with God. You are not hustling alone. You are co-creating. Invite the divine into your decision-making. Ask for wisdom. Listen for guidance. Rest on Shabbat not as an interruption, but as a declaration. My success is not solely mine. This mindset frees you from desperation and grounds you in abundance. True prosperity flows from trust. These final commandments are not checkboxes, they are lenses. They shape the way you see money, people, and purpose. Together with the first 5, they form a holistic path, not to shallow wealth, but to sacred prosperity. Let this teaching take root, not just in your mind, but in your habits, in how you sell, how you serve, how you save and spend. Remember, it is not sinful to succeed. It is sinful to hide the light God gave you. So go forth, build, serve, prosper, but most of all, align. This is the Torah of wealth. Why maintaining a positive view of money is an act of spiritual maturity. The Torah warns not against wealth, but against worshiping wealth. There's a difference. Many modern thinkers have mistaken piety for poverty, as if a humble spirit must be paired with an empty bank account. But in Jewish tradition, a positive view of money reflects spiritual maturity. It takes wisdom to hold abundance without arrogance. It takes discipline to steward prosperity without losing your purpose. When you maintain a healthy view of money, you resist the extremes, the greed of chasing it at all costs, and the guilt of rejecting it when it flows to you. You see it as a tool, not a god. And tools can be used to build legacies, lift others, and create order in a chaotic world. Money, in this tradition, is neither evil nor magical. It is neutral, waiting to be used. A hammer can build a house or break a window. It depends on the hands that wield it. The spiritually mature don't shy away from this reality. They embrace it. They ask, "What kind of builder am I becoming?" This mindset clears away envy. It dismantles the lie that wealth always comes from exploitation. It allows you to honor those who've earned it well, and to become someone who can handle it too. There is divine clarity in this view, that your character is the real measure, and your relationship with money is merely one expression of it. How to build business relationships that reflect covenant, not contract. In today's marketplace, trust is rare, and that makes it valuable. Rabbi Lapin speaks powerfully to the idea that our relationships in business must move beyond transactional contracts and into covenantal connections. What does this mean in practice? A covenantal relationship is built on shared values and mutual commitment. It says, we're not just here to take from each other, we're here to grow together. It transforms vendors into partners, customers into community, employees into allies. This is not soft-hearted idealism, it's strategic. Loyalty is more profitable than opportunism, and nothing builds loyalty like being dependable when it's inconvenient. Imagine a world where your word carries weight, where your handshake is stronger than a signature. That world is not a fantasy, it's the foundation of Jewish business wisdom. Honor breeds influence, integrity creates momentum. You must ask yourself, are my relationships built to last, or just to last until the next better offer? Do I chase short-term gain or long-term legacy? People remember how you treat them when you don't need them. A covenantal business person operates with consistency, with fairness, and with the willingness to see beyond the immediate sale. This approach doesn't just build wealth, it builds wealth that lasts. And that's the Torah way, not just to succeed, but to succeed with dignity. What Jewish history teaches us about resilience and long-term wealth. Jewish resilience is not accidental. It is engineered into the culture. Across centuries of exile, persecution, and displacement, the Jewish people have not only survived, they've thrived. The question is how, and more importantly, what can we learn from that? At the heart of Jewish endurance is the commitment to long-term thinking. From Abraham to Moses, and through every generation since, Jewish tradition has instilled a deep respect for legacy. It teaches that every hardship contains seed for future strength. Every setback is temporary. What matters is not what happens to you, but how you carry forward the covenant you're part of. This is why Jewish communities focus intensely on education, on saving and investing, on passing down values, not just valuables. It's why family businesses and intellectual traditions span continents and centuries. In business, too many people are chasing quick wins. Jewish wisdom encourages you to plant trees under whose shade you may never sit, to build something that outlasts you. That means making decisions not just for this quarter, but for the next generation. It also means developing internal fortitude. Jewish people recite blessings in times of both joy and suffering. There's a spiritual toughness there, a refusal to let circumstances dictate identity. The lesson for you? If your mindset can outlast the market, your wealth will follow. Resilience is not about never breaking down. It's about bouncing back better. Your greatest returns, financially and spiritually, come not from avoiding failure, but from using it as a refining fire. The most successful builders of wealth don't just track trends. They build traditions. That's the Jewish way. Long memory, long vision, long impact. The link between self-discipline, delayed gratification, and divine reward. At the core of Jewish spiritual life is one of the most powerful traits for building wealth: self-discipline. The ability to delay gratification is seen not as a burden, but as a form of spiritual power. Think about the practices woven into Jewish daily and yearly rhythms: fasting on Yom Kippur, not eating leavened bread during Passover, observing Shabbat rest every week. These aren't random rituals. They are disciplines. They train the soul to say, I can wait. I can refrain. I'm not a slave to my impulses. That same self-mastery is what separates fleeting wealth from sustainable success. In finance, this means the ability to invest instead of splurge, to sacrifice short-term pleasures for long-term security, to build steadily even when everyone else is chasing shortcuts. That's not just financial intelligence, it's spiritual intelligence. There's also reward baked into restraint. Torah doesn't just command discipline, it honors it. It teaches that those who can rule over their desires are fit to rule over resources. If you can resist the urge to consume everything now, you become worthy of managing more later. This applies in every area: time, energy, food, sex, money. The same discipline that builds a strong spiritual life builds a strong business. Why? Because both require the same muscle: choosing what is right over what is easy. This doesn't mean never enjoying your wealth. It means enjoying it with awareness, with gratitude, and with stewardship. The divine reward isn't just riches, it's the person you become through discipline. And that person is capable of building a life no market crash can destroy. Navigating the social media age, why ancient wisdom is more relevant than ever. We live in the most connected age in human history, yet we're more distracted, discontent, and disoriented than ever. Social media promised opportunity, and in many ways, it delivered. But what it gave us in speed and scale, it often stole in focus and depth. Jewish wisdom is built for times like these. In a world driven by virality and instant gratification, the Jewish tradition reminds us to think generationally, to slow down, to ask, is this real value or just attention? Because while platforms reward the loudest, true wealth belongs to those who are rooted. The Torah teaches us to count time not in likes and impressions, but in Sabbaths and seasons. To measure success not by public applause, but by private alignment. In the digital economy, this is a radical act. But it's also a competitive advantage. Social media trains us to chase validation. Jewish teachings train us to chase wisdom. One builds clout, the other builds character, and in the long run, character compounds more than followers ever will. Consider this. Influence without integrity is a liability. Visibility without values is a trap. Platforms can raise your profile, but only principles can hold your prosperity. So how do we apply ancient principles to this modern moment? First, we reclaim our attention. The Shema, the foundational Jewish prayer, begins with, "Hear, O Israel." In a noisy world, to truly hear is sacred. You must filter signal from noise. Elevate content that feeds your purpose. Discipline your consumption as fiercely as your production. Second, we return to value creation. Jewish financial wisdom teaches that wealth flows to those who solve problems, who serve others, who bring light into dark corners of the market. That doesn't change just because the tools are digital. Real influence still starts with impact. This moment doesn't require abandoning technology. It requires transcending it. Use the algorithm, but don't be used by it. Build presence, but anchor in principle. And remember, a well-fed soul is the best brand strategy. Personal branding versus eternal identity. Building a name that outlasts platforms. We are witnessing the age of personal branding. Everyone, consciously or not, is curating an identity. Bios, visuals, reels. It's a 24/7 highlight reel of who we want the world to think we are. But Jewish wisdom cuts through this illusion with a deeper question. Who are you when the cameras are off? Because in the Jewish worldview, your Shem, your name, is sacred. Not your screen name, your soul name. The one written in heaven, not hashtags. King Solomon writes in Proverbs, "A good name is more desirable than great riches." This isn't just spiritual poetry, it's business strategy. In a world where trust is scarce, reputation is currency. And trust can't be hacked, faked, or bought. It is earned, daily. The social media era tempts us to focus on perception over performance. But perception is fragile. One scandal, one misstep, one exposure, and it all crumbles. That's why Jewish tradition emphasizes integrity over image. Your character should be more consistent than your content. When people trust your name, not just your brand, they open doors, share opportunities, and invest in your vision. That kind of wealth, relational, reputational, spiritual, is inflation-proof. And here's the twist. Jewish teaching says your name is not something you inherit, it's something you build through how you treat others, through how you show up in hard moments, through how you keep your word when it costs you. So yes, build your platform, polish your craft, tell your story. But don't forget, when the trends change and the platforms evolve, your name will remain. Make it one that your children and your creator can be proud of. From contracts to covenants, building business relationships that last. In today's transactional world, everything is negotiable. People sign contracts, click agree, and chase the best deal. But the Jewish tradition invites us to a higher standard, the covenant. A contract protects interests. A covenant protects relationships. In Hebrew, the word for covenant is brit, a sacred bond not just of legality, but of loyalty. It is not based on mutual benefit alone, but on mutual responsibility. That's how Jewish families, businesses, and communities have weathered centuries of uncertainty, through bonds deeper than paper. When you build business on covenantal principles, you stop treating people like tools. Clients become partners. Employees become stewards. Every transaction carries the weight of trust. That doesn't mean you ignore profits. It means you understand profits are best protected by principles. One of the most iconic Jewish practices is the bris milah, the covenant of circumcision. It's not about convenience or comfort. It's about commitment. That same spirit applies to business. Will you show up when it's inconvenient? Will you honor your word when it hurts? Will you choose long-term loyalty over short-term gain? This approach may not go viral, but it builds a reputation that outlives recessions. It attracts the right people and repels the wrong ones. And in a social media world full of filters and flakiness, a person of covenantal character shines. Here's the truth. The best clients, the best investors, the best partners are all looking for someone they can trust, not just someone who can perform. Be that person. Build that reputation. That's the Jewish way. The final principle, prosperity as a form of responsibility. So we arrive at the final commandment, not a rule, but a revelation. Prosperity is not about you. It's about what flows through you. In Jewish tradition, wealth is never the end point. It is a tool, a test, a trust. The ultimate question isn't how much you have, but what you do with it. From Abraham to Maimonides, Jewish leaders saw wealth as a divine assignment, to build, to give, to lift, to repair. This is tzedakah, not charity, but justice. The righteous redistribution of resources, done not out of pity, but from a deep sense of moral obligation. In the digital age, it's tempting to focus on flexing wealth. But Jewish wisdom teaches you to circulate wealth, to multiply impact, to fund futures. Your income is your influence. Steward it wisely. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks once said, "To be a Jew is to be an agent of hope in a world of despair." That includes the economy. When you prosper with purpose, you model possibility. You show your family, your community, and your audience that it is possible to succeed without selling your soul. This doesn't mean you'll never stumble, but it does mean you're committed to growing into someone worthy of the blessings you seek. In a culture that either demonizes money or worships it, Jewish teaching offers a middle way. Sanctify it. Bring holiness to the hustle. Bring conscience to the contract. Bring light into the ledger. The Torah of wealth isn't about becoming rich. It's about becoming ready. Ready to handle divine abundance. Ready to walk in wisdom. Ready to lead with legacy in mind. And so we close this lecture not with finality, but with invitation. You don't need to be born into this tradition to be shaped by its truths. You simply need to begin living like your work is sacred, like your wealth is a vessel, like your purpose is non-negotiable. Because it is. This isn't just financial literacy, it's financial leadership. The world doesn't just need more rich people, it needs more righteous ones. You're one decision away from becoming both.